You wake at dawn as master of 70 million souls, commanding legions from Britain to Syria. But before you speak to a single general or senator, you spend the first hour of every morning writing to yourself about how powerless you truly are. Welcome to History Snapshots. This is the story of Marcus Aurelius and what it reveals about the gap between power and control that still defines leadership today. April 26th, 121 CE. Rome. A boy is born into the highest tier of Roman aristocracy, nephew to the future Emperor Hadrian. By age 17, Marcus Aurelius Antoninus is adopted by Emperor Antoninus Pius and groomed for absolute authority. He studies rhetoric, Greek, Latin, law, and then discovers the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. The writings change everything. Where other princes learn statecraft and military tactics, Marcus learns that externals, wealth, status, even empire, are indifferent. What matters is the discipline of the mind. On March 7th, 161 CE, Antoninus Pius dies. Marcus ascends to the throne at age 40, immediately sharing power with his adoptive brother Lucius Verus. He doesn't want sole command. He's read enough philosophy to know that power corrupts perception, that the throne is a kind of trap. He's right. Marcus rises before sunrise, not because protocol demands it, but because Stoic practice does. The first hour is spent writing in Greek, private notes never intended for publication. These will become the Meditations, 12 books of reminders to himself. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. This isn't pessimism. It's preparation. After writing, he breaks fast sparingly. Bread, olives, watered wine. He avoids luxury not from asceticism but from principle. Pleasure is indifferent, neither good nor bad. What matters is judgment. By mid-morning, he's in the Concilium, the Imperial Council. Advisors present reports. Grain shortages in Egypt, border skirmishes in Germania, a governor accused of corruption in Syria. Marcus listens to every voice. He's known for this, the emperor who doesn't interrupt, who asks questions rather than issuing verdicts. It frustrates the Senate. Decisiveness is imperial virtue. Deliberation looks like weakness. But Marcus has read his Epictetus. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. He governs accordingly, even when it costs him political capital. In 165 CE, Lucius Verus returns from the Parthian War victorious and carrying plague. The Antonine plague spreads through the empire like wildfire. Fever, pustules, death within days. Modern estimates suggest 5 million dead, possibly more. Rome's streets fill with funeral pyres, the economy collapses, soldiers desert. Marcus doesn't flee to a country villa. He remains in Rome, administering relief, selling imperial property to fund grain distributions. At night, he writes, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Death is no longer theoretical. It's in the air he breathes. Then, the Marcomanni cross the Danube. Germanic tribes, sensing Roman weakness, invade in force. In 168 CE, Marcus leaves Rome for the northern frontier. He will spend the next 12 years in military camps along the Danube, fighting what historians call the Marcomannic Wars. He's 47 years old, suffering from chronic stomach pain, possibly an ulcer, and has never wanted to be a general. But duty is duty. Here's the pattern. When the gap between your role and your nature widens, you have 2 choices: abandon the role or reconstruct your nature. Marcus chooses the latter, writing himself into a version of a man who can endure this. It's philosophy as survival tool, not academic exercise. The military camps are brutal. Winter on the Danube, mud, disease, desertion. Marcus shares a tent barely larger than his officers, refuses the imperial pavilion. Every morning, the same routine. Wake before dawn, write, then inspect the legions. The meditations from this period are darker. How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself. This is a man surrounded by sycophants, spies, and generals, whispering that the emperor is too soft, too philosophical, too slow to execute traitors. His own wife, Faustina is rumored, almost certainly falsely, to be unfaithful. Courtiers expect him to act, to punish, to demonstrate strength through cruelty. He doesn't. He writes instead, "The best revenge is not to be like that." Is this wisdom or avoidance? His contemporaries aren't sure, but the wars grind on. Marcus wins battles through attrition, not brilliance. He's methodical, cautious, deliberate, exactly the qualities that frustrate a Roman culture built on glory and conquest. By 175 CE, a false rumor of his death triggers a usurpation attempt by Avidius Cassius in the east. Marcus marches to confront him, but Cassius is assassinated before they meet. Marcus's response? He burns Cassius's correspondence unread, refuses to punish the families of conspirators, and forbids the Senate from declaring damnatio memoriae. Mercy, he believes, is strength. By 178 CE, Marcus is 57. The stomach pain is constant. He takes theriac and opium-based medicine just to function. His son Commodus, 17, joins him on campaign, arrogant, impatient, everything Marcus fears. Roman tradition demands he name Commodus his heir. Philosophy whispers that bloodline is indifferent, that merit should decide. Marcus chooses tradition. It will prove disastrous. Commodus will become one of Rome's worst emperors, dismantling his father's policies within years. Did Marcus know? Probably. He writes in this period, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." It reads like resignation. The final entries of the Meditations are spare, repetitive, almost mantric. Soon you'll be ashes or bones, a mere name at most, and even that is just a sound, an echo. He's preparing himself. On March 17th, 180 CE, in Vindobona or possibly Sirmium, sources conflict, Marcus Aurelius dies. Ancient accounts say his last words were about the sunrise and why men fear the natural. He's 58. The empire he spent 19 years stabilizing will collapse into chaos within a generation. His private journals, never meant for publication, will be copied and circulated, becoming one of the most influential philosophical texts in history. So what was life really like as Marcus Aurelius? It was waking every day into a role you never wanted, wielding power you didn't trust, and using philosophy not as decoration, but as the only tool that kept you sane. It was the discipline of writing yourself into a shape that could endure empire. Here's the lesson. Marcus discovered what modern leadership studies are only now confirming, that authority and control are not the same thing. You can command legions and still control nothing, not plague, not invasion, not your own son's character. What you can control is your response, your judgment, the story you tell yourself about what's happening. That's not ancient wisdom. It's the exact dilemma facing anyone in a position they didn't choose, managing forces they can't control, surrounded by people who mistake their authority for power. Marcus's insight was that the gap between role and reality doesn't close. You just get better at standing in it. The Meditations aren't a philosophy of power. They're a manual for functioning when power reveals itself as illusion. In your own life, the question isn't whether you'll face that gap. It's whether you'll have a practice that lets you survive it. Marcus did. He wrote every morning for 19 years, reminding himself he was ordinary. That discipline, not the throne, is what made him extraordinary.